my man.
Okay, so coming off your appearance this past weekend at the AAA show, TripleMania 30th anniversary. Firstly, I have to ask on behalf of listeners who may not be familiar, can you tell me a little about your relationship with the AAA promotion and how your partnership with them all started?
Wow, goes back to the founding of TNA. When 2002 TNA was founded, we were doing our Wednesday night pay-per-view only shows, and we launched the X Division. The catchphrase, if you will, was "It's not about weight limits; it's about no limits." But it was kind of a mashup of some lucha libre, some strong style in Japan, some mat wrestling of the UK, and some showmanship of the United States. But I worked out in basically a talent exchange agreement with Antonio Pena, the founder of AAA. So we struck up a relationship, and he had this grand idea that he was going to bring me to Mexico, and he did. And in a whole new way, it was like a whole nother career I've had in Mexico that a lot of U.S. fans, or candidly fans outside of Mexico, are not really aware of. I'm a two-time mega champion, their main championship. They have a yearly tournament called Rey de Reyes, King of Kings. Very prestigious tournament. I won that back in 05, I believe, and have basically had a working relationship with them pretty consistently for the last, now we're getting on 16, 17, 18 years. Their version of WrestleMania is a show called TripleMania. They have it yearly. Between August, September, they've had one as late as October, but in that time frame, this year is their 30th anniversary, and they are really celebrating it in a grandiose way. It's kind of amazing. So they're having 3 different events. They just had one Saturday in Monterey. They have another one in Tijuana in June at a soccer stadium, expecting 30, 40,000 fans. I think there were over 20,000 fans in Monterey this past Saturday. And then, of course, in October in Mexico City at the arena, and might be the hardest ticket to ever get in Mexico. It's going to be a really, really big event. So I've had a long-standing relationship. My wife joined me in 2010. And let's just say there are some AAA fans that don't quite like the king and the queen of the mountain in Mexico, but I'll leave it at that.
So on the same show, just focusing on Saturday's show, we had several talents from multiple organizations, both past and present. I've heard this referred to as a pro wrestling multiverse, and promoters like Tony Khan and AEW like to call it the forbidden door. What is your take on these organizations working in collaboration to produce a singular event?
I've always been a huge fan of it. It goes back to the 80s. My father was a part of an event called Super Clash that AWA and WCCW, basically the Von Erichs in Texas and us in Tennessee. At TNA, I always had we called it an open door policy. We had a promotional relationship with New Japan for years and years. We worked with independents. We worked with Mexico, both promotions down there. When I launched Global Force, the whole premise was basically, we called it an open door policy to work with one another. I think in this day and age, the transparency that permeates the industry in so many shape, forms, and fashion, from we're not a true sport. We're obviously sports and entertainment. That the fan base understands that wrestling goes on all over the globe. And so I've always had that mindset. And it's basically, I certainly didn't come up with it generations ago. Only really in the early 90s did it become polarizing, and we'll call it the Monday Night Wars. But collaboration has been around forever, and I think it's very, very healthy. And Saturday in Monterey, I have never really seen, as it relates to the Lucha Libre stars, megastars from the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010. It was stacked. I was up in one of the luxury suites doing a corporate event, and I just kind of looked around down through the hallway, and when you kind of look at the names that were there or who were scheduled to come in or already been in, it's a who's who. And I think to put it in maybe U.S. terms, imagine Flair, Hogan, Rock, Stone Cold. I mean, you name it, a who's who. So it was a really, really special event in so many ways. Latin Lover, my arch nemesis, who I kicked his ass. But no, I mean, you know, he was a huge star in AAA, and then he's gone off and been in Academy Award winning movies. He's regularly on TV shows. He won their version of Dancing with the Stars 2 or 3 times. So basically a crossover star as well.
Mm-hmm. And so you mentioned TNA actually a bit. It is the company that you founded, now rebranded as Impact, and they actually have a big anniversary coming up this year as well, their 20th. So just wanted to speak a little about the history of TNA in the early years. Can you tell me about some of the early days of the promotion? What was the motivation behind starting your own wrestling company?
Strictly that, looking at the landscape in 2001, when the WWE bought their competition, it was truly the end of the war. And it was, you know, obviously my father, I'm a 3rd generation. My grandmother didn't wrestle, but she did everything else. She promoted. And so looking at the business from a real macro level, there is no number 1 without a number 2. It's just wrestling. And so the whole mindset, the whole brand identity was not to be, we're going to be number 2, although Avis has made billions off of, we're number 2, we try harder. And Hertz is the number 1 in the marketplace. You know, that was their whole impetus. Our whole mindset was to be the alternative. And from 2002 to about 2009, that was the entire mindset, to be the alternative brand. Long before social media exploded, it's a different age now. Now you can look around and look at NWA and Game Changer and AAA and New Japan and Progress. And I mean, me and you could talk for hours. There's so many promotions out there. But when we started, there was really just the WWE, and TNA came along, and we were very, very successful as the alternative.
Mm-hmm. And can you tell me about some of the planning that went into booking the first event?
Oh gosh. You know, me and my podcast partner, Conrad Thompson, we went so deep into it. We actually did 3 episodes on just the starting up of TNA. So I don't think we have enough time to go into it, but there was a massive amount of planning. Not just, you know, I think most of your wrestling fans will just think creative and production. And really they don't even think production. It's just like, hey, we're going to get a bunch of wrestlers and go down to Huntsville, Alabama and put on a show. But financing, there was a massive amount of legal work to be done, a massive amount just to start up, and not just production. It's the design of the set, or trucking and logistics and ticket sales and advertising and marketing, all a startup with a very, very skeleton crew and limited funds. So it was challenging, but I look back on those days very fondly.
Yeah. And speaking of fondly, what are some of your fondest memories over the 20-year period?
Wow. It's, you know, as that rolled off your tongue, and I've done a couple of interviews this week, and this has come up that, you know, next month, June 19th, will be the 20th anniversary. And I look back on those times, especially the early days, and, you know, in the ring, I could come up with 20, 30. My matches that I had with AJ Styles were phenomenal, pardon the pun, or maybe not pardon the pun, but, you know, the talent that came through there that I was blessed to just have around and be a part of and grow and nature, just Samoa Joe, gosh, AJ Styles, Bobby Roode, Eric Young. I mean, we could go on and on the list.
Right.
That was all a lot of fun. Getting the Spike deal from a growth aspect, enormous. And then we did a fast track. We started on Saturday nights for 1 hour, and then we moved to Thursday nights, non-prime as well. And then we went 1 hour prime and then 2 hours to prime, all inside a relatively a short period of time in the world of Hollywood. And so the team that we put together, not only on camera, behind the camera, was really, really special, and some of the greatest times of my life.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think a startup wrestling organization in this day and age has to do to attract newer fans?
Create their brand and stay true to it. I think more than anything, stay true to their brand, because when you look at the landscape, there is a lot of content being produced out there. So what makes you different? What makes you stand out? what makes you connect with your fan base to say, I need to watch this program for reasons X, Y, and Z?
Mhm. And so just one last question, just to be respectful of your time here. But I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about Young Rock, the TV series.
I
And
love it.
what have you thought about the show thus far, and especially your portrayal as the character in Memphis?
To me, and hats off to the creative process, Brian Gerwitz and the whole team. And, you know, the vision of the show, and I'll call it the format, if you will, is refreshing. It is a sitcom, but has, you know, for a wrestling fan, it's fantastic. But I try to watch it. This is a little inside here. I try to watch it through the lens essentially of a non-wrestling fan or a truly lapsed wrestling fan that doesn't quite connect. Okay, I know wrestling. I watched it. I might have watched it in the 80s, or maybe I watched it in the Attitude Era, but I'm disconnected. I know Rock came in and he's gone off and done these movies, but let me sit down and watch it. They do a heck of a job of just simplistic entertaining the audience. And I think that's kind of the magic of the recipe, that if you just sit down in front of your TV and are truly the old proverbial flipping the channels, and you stop on it and you can watch 5, 7, 10 minutes, you go, okay, I enjoyed that. I'm going to stick around for the rest of the half hour. So I think they're doing a great job. And James Bolton, my man, who's playing a Double J, it's like a mashup because it's sort of set in the Memphis times, but there's some Double J, new generation era flavored into it. So that's why I think everything they do, it just works. It's unique. It's surely not classic footage, but it does a hell of a job of entertaining.
Mhm. Well, Jeff, it's been a pleasure. Thank you again so much for joining me, and good luck with everything that you have going on.
I appreciate it, man. Check out the pod anytime.
Absolutely.
New episodes drop on Tuesday. All right. Appreciate it. Have a good day.
Take care. You too.